What happened in around the late teens is that people started combining these elements, the big, huge bass drums, like they were 28 inches because they were marching bass drums, and then these little tiny tom-toms that were about this big and about that size, and then cowbells and wood blocks and all kinds of different things like that together. This instrument over here, the hi-hat, wasn't even developed yet, and then of course the snare drum. And at that point the drums were called traps, as in contraption is where it comes from. So all of these things were pulled together to start the development of the drum kit. For many, many years, the tom-toms, which are these two drums here, they had tacked bottom heads on them. So they weren't, you know, you're dealing with calfskin heads. And they were very, very thick, and they weren't really tunable. So a lot like the Dene drums, that's the kind of heads that the drummers of the time were using on the drums. So they had tacked heads on the bottom, so you couldn't tune them at all. You could tune somewhat the top heads. And that was pretty well happening up until about the 1930s. Prior to that, a guy named Ludwig developed the hi-hat, and in the 1910s, it used to be really low. It was called a lowboy. Nobody played on it. Nobody played the hi-hat. It was sitting really, really low, and it was just to make a noise. That was it. Then later on in the 1920s, late 1920s, all of a sudden it got raised up, and then you have people like Buddy Rich and a lot of the jazz drummers that start playing the hi-hat as an actual instrument to be part of the kit. In around the 1930s, Gene Krupa, he signs up with the Slingerland Drum Company, and they developed drums that have two tunable heads on them.